Hey guys, my name is Anna McKenzie. I am a member of the Lady Raider basketball team here at Tech, and I'm also a senior. What I decided to do my project on is euthanasia and physician assisted suicide. So basically, the reason why I chose these topics is because this might sound kind of weird, but I've always kind of had like this interest between like death and people getting to choose if they want to die or not, and just like that whole personal autonomy and the right, and just people having their own rights to basically do whatever they want, like their free will. Um, I also chose this topic because it also sparked an interest because in my family, with dealing with my grandmother and her Alzheimer's and everything like that, like if she had the mental capacity to make those decisions, and if she could see like how she is right now and what she has to like actually what she's going through with like not even being able to take care of yourself, feed yourself, and even get up to use the bathroom, like those kind of things, like I'm sure she could look back, like she would know what that quality of life for herself. And I know if she had the choice, she would you know would go for one of these routes, either euthanasia or physician assisted suicide. So, with the difference between euthanasia and physician assisted suicide is euthanasia is when a physician gives you like a pill that, obviously will end your life, and you take it yourself. Now, on the other hand, physician assisted suicide is when the physician, like you give the physician the okay to end your life, and they will intravenously or like through your veins basically will give you like a dose of saline, morphine, overdose of morphine, or any of those things, and it'll basically put your body into a coma, start shutting your mind off, and eventually like you will just be sleeping and you'll slowly pass away. Now both processes are completely pain free. The person is no longer suffering at all, and obviously like they got to end their life with dignity. They got to take initiative, and not have to just sit there and just wait to die. um Another really important thing too that I was also thinking about was just looking at like the kind of population that this affects, because we're not just talking about like, oh, somebody is just sick in the hospital and they're like, I want to die, end my life. Like, no, that's not how it works. And I think that's the misconception that a lot of people get. Like, they don't truly understand what kind of people are asking for this route of to end their lives. And we're talking about patients that are terminally ill, on their deathbed, diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, no chance of coming like back from that. Like they've been told, you're gonna die, and they're in the hospital just waiting to die. Like they can't even go home and or anything. So, this stuff like that, like you're not gonna want to like sit in your bed and just sitting there in pain, just waking up every day, having everyone do everything for you. You can't move, you can't hardly walk, talk, anything, and like there's nothing you can do about it. You just have to sit there and wait until you die. And frankly, that's a lot of faith for a lot of people because it's not legalized everywhere. So the three disciplines that I thought would really help, really diagnose this and really trying to, see, what's going on in this subject is I used law, ethics, and from like a medical standpoint. And basically the overall point of my research was just to, overall obviously get a better understanding for it, but also to see like why is it not legalized, and the problems and concerns that are coming along with euthanasia and physician assisted suicide. So, um one of the things, sorry. So as I mentioned, like, more and more people are getting, interested in this whole like death and the dying, and there's so many questions that are just being raised. And even though there are a lot of people who have chose this way of ending their life when they're in a hopeless situation, there are a lot of people that also feel like this is murder. And while it does denote a form of death that is carried out with dignity, um, the thing about euthanasia is, like I mentioned, there is absolutely no suffering for the patient whatsoever. So today, the reason why this is such a big prominent like topic in the contemporary world and everything. It's like I said before with the whole like death and dying thing. It's just people are just drawn to it and they just automatically assume that these people are being murdered. They don't have the mental capacity to do that. Well, before you can even go on and even get assisted suicide, you have to go through a mental background check. You can't just say I'm going to die. So just like what I mentioned, like for my grandma, of course I'm sure if she could go back and look at herself right now, she, would have probably wished that she could have assisted suicide or choose the route of euthanasia. But her mental capacity with Alzheimer's, like there's no way for her to get that, because at that point, that's when it becomes a crime, because the person doesn't have the mental capacity or capability to even go on ahead and even say that they really want this for themselves. So that was also a really big thing. It's also like where is the line being drawn? And that was a big controversy that came up. And like I mentioned, so that goes into the law thing. That addresses that problem with, how, like, where is the line being drawn, and what kind of things people need to go through in order to even go through and get the legal way to go out with dignity. Another discipline that I also looked into was like the discipline between like ethics and everything, because you have doctors that have to go through this that say, well, ethically, what do I do in this situation? Do I let the person die, or do I, give them their wishes, like give them their wishes, or do I do everything I can to try to keep them alive? Because as a doctor, you're supposed to do everything to keep that person alive and keep them healthy. But then you're also facing another situation where at some point it kind of becomes like, you're ending their lives, but is it the whole point of a doctor, to keep them alive? So as I did research and everything, I saw that a lot of doctors had actually came out and spoke out and said that, it is a tough decision, but what they normally go on is to basically just go back on, what the law states, and then they also go back to their own personal ethics and those kind of things. Excuse me. So, looking on to like the whole medical side of things to address like that whole controversy. So, it kind of goes in with ethics and medical aspects of everything. But I think another misconception and what also causes a lot of like controversy with euthanasia is the medical aspect. Because while you're in a hospital, you don't go to the hospital to die. You go to the hospital to get better and help you get better. So that kind of goes back to the whole thing: is this murder? Well, it just depends. Like it's not murder unless like you're actually killing someone. The person who has the right mental capacity, who's gone through medical assessments to make sure that they're mentally capable of going through with this, they'll be assessed, and then they will get the yes or no and whether or not that's okay. And then also, you also have to go into, like, you're going to be talking with the family. You're going to be, obviously talking with this person. You're going to assess the kind of condition that they have. You're not just, like I said, you're not just going to go and not kill somebody, but you're not going to go and have somebody, assist them in a death when they just have something like the common cold and they're just can't go through it. Like, no, this is after a long time. You're terminally ill. You're not getting better. You're in pain. You don't like all those kind of things. That this is like last case scenario, letting somebody finally just take their life into their own hands and not have to just go with what the doctors are saying. And that I just can't even imagine having to go through something like that. So basically, I just believe that there's a need for both for healthcare providers, people that study ethics and lawyers to just, I think that they just need to really truly understand, what this all entails, and really just not just base an opinion off of what the whole big picture is. I think every situation needs to be evaluated separately. So basically, um, patients that are requesting a legal dosage to end their suffering through the through the induction of death pose a great challenge to the provision of advanced healthcare in contemporary society. Even though they are going to receive the best form of medical therapy to control their symptoms, they are also needed for physiological and spiritual therapy that 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 can be found basically through like their basically when they truly understand like and they go through this whole process of dying and stuff like that, they can go through like they're going to go through a whole spiritual therapy, um, so like physiological, like all those kind of things, and they're just going to become like really aware of what's happening and become like just can fully just like release themselves and just completely have like a great understanding of what's happening and just die with peace and just get out of their misery and despair. And even though patient care should be based on the notion that even if their patients are most miserable moments, the situation can be improved through sensitive communication that is grounded basically upon partnership, and it can also change their perception of their lives. So overall, like I said, I just think that each situation needs to be taken and handled very separately, which is why this problem is so complex. And that's why I used three different disciplines. And even though like they might have seemed like they're completely different, law, ethics, medical, like all those things, I feel like in for this particular subject, they all really go together. But it's all very necessary to look at those three things specifically in each of their own to really help solve this complex issue. So thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And I wish everyone else a great semester and all their exams.